My name is J. Calvin Tibbs, and I am the author of the book, Running Laps, a 21st Century Disruptive Discipleship Design. I think the big themes that we go over is whether or not you're watching by video or podcast, or you're live in a sermon or in a service, Laps is going to help you retain what you just heard or saw or read, because oftentimes they say, and this really doesn't feel good as a pastor, that 80% of what you just said is forgotten by the time the people hit the parking lot. That's terrible. So one way to help that happen, meaning how can we help retention with that? Running laps is the way the discipleship activity inside of a person continues on like a good meal. You remember it long after you ate. What made me want to write this book was a question that was posed by one of our leaders concerning how we would move forward with training for our presumptive disciples and people in our church. And I had to think about it. And the initial thought that came is in the scripture, Matthew 28, where Jesus told everybody 4 things to do, and that is to go, teach, make, and baptize. The way that we get that done now has to be different than the way that it was done back in earlier times. That's how Laps was actually birthed. I think the unique perspective that we bring to Laps and that Laps brings to the reader is that it's a 21st century game plan. Laps is asking questions, not a whole lot, but just enough to pique awareness and get people moving in their awareness specific to what is my purpose. Inside of Laps, there are 3 prominent individuals whose contribution must be talked about. Dr. Dean Radke is the first of them. He is the leader of and the founder of the Ministry Institute. Then there's Dr. James O. Davis, who is the leader of the Global Church Network. Also running throughout the theme of the book is Donald Jenkins, who is the president and co-founder of the Purpose Development Institute. One of the stories is really the theme of Laps, and that is that our church runs Laps. We run it on Sunday morning, we run Laps on Tuesday nights, we run some sense of Laps on Wednesdays. The goal of this and the reality of the magic, if you want to call it that, is that it's a doing thing. Knowledge is retained based upon action, not based upon hearing. Hearing starts it, but doing it seals it. And when we put those things together, and that's what we've seen happen at our church, we hear people saying things like, I'm running laps on my day. I'm running laps on what just happened a few minutes ago. That's the power of it, where we can synthesize the reality of the day and make it make sense and meaning so that we can be better at what we're here to do. I hope that the reader of this book gains a critical asset, which is critical thinking skills. Romans 12:2 says, don't be conformed to the world, but be transformed by the renewing of the mind. Laps begins to move people in the first milestone of awareness through critical thinking. And that's the goal, I think, that anyone reading this book is going to walk away with. If you are a pastor, a church leader, or if you attend church online or on ground, this book is going to benefit you because it's going to help you grow. My name is J. Calvin Tibbs, and I am the author of the book, Running Laps, a 21st Century Disruptive Discipleship Design.